Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful friends and loyal listeners. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you so much for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. I read all of your comments. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And remember that we're now live on Traverse TV, our awesome OTT platform, Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern and on YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. All episodes of A Moment of Zen are also available on demand and on our YouTube channel. We have a great show lined up for you today. In My Healthy Minutes, brought to you by ogpay.com, we're chatting with the fabulous Kathy Ireland, supermodel turned supermogul, CEO and chief designer of Kathy Ireland Worldwide. She's coming on with my good friend, Amy Kennedy, education director of the Kennedy Forum. And today we're chatting about the ongoing mental health crisis in America, Kathy Ireland's recovery centers, and how the film Anxious Nation, presented by Kathy Ireland herself, explores and captures the many faces and facets of anxiety. In our influencer segment, brought to you by Revere Securities, we are featuring best-selling author, coach, speaker, and branding expert, the beautiful Heidi Cortez. Today, we're chatting about the importance of brandability, the power of the blue check mark, and insider tips on how to get verified on social media. In Hello Open Metaverse, brought to you by Animoca Brands, we are featuring John Kraski, Director of Strategic Partnerships at LandVault. LandVault is one of the world's largest metaverse builders, transitioning brands such as Mastercard, Heineken, and World of Women into Web 3.0. Today, we're chatting about how Open Metaverse Alliance says it won't let Meta and Mark Zuckerberg define the future of the internet, and how the future of the metaverse hinges on interoperability. In our innovation and tech segment, brought to you by Caldwell Soames, we are joined by our regular contributor, Paul Caldwell, and today he is joined by Vincent Molinari, founder and CEO of fintech.tv. Today, we're chatting about where the fintech industry is headed amidst the digital process, but specifically about cross-border payments and ease of use for the 1.7 billion people in this world that are unbanked or underbanked, but all still have a smartphone. Stay tuned for Kathy Ireland and Amy Kennedy. We're chatting Anxious Nation and the ongoing mental health crisis in America. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Coming up in My Healthy Minutes, brought to you by ogpay.com, we're chatting with the amazing Kathy Ireland, supermodel turned supermogul, CEO and chief designer of Kathy Ireland Worldwide, ranked the world's 19th most powerful brand, the highest ranking woman-owned licensed business in America. She's coming on in just a few to chat with my dear friend, Amy Kennedy, education director of the Kennedy Forum. Today, we're chatting about the ongoing mental health crisis in America, Kathy Ireland's recovery centers, and how the film Anxious Nation, presented by Kathy Ireland, explores and captures the many faces and facets of anxiety. This feature-length documentary takes a deep look into the crisis of anxiety and mental health in America, especially its impact on kids ages 10 through 26 and their families. They zero in on how anxiety shows up, the nurture-nature debate, what's happening in homes and society that's significantly adding to the problem, and the impact of anxiety and mental health in lower socioeconomic communities, especially especially the brown and black ones. Welcoming now to the show are my super mamas, super trailblazers, and super health advocates, Amy Kennedy and Kathy Ireland. Welcome to the show, beautiful ladies.
Thank you, Zen.
Thanks, Zen. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you guys. Oh, such a pleasure chatting with two superpowers. Okay, so the progression of the COVID-19 pandemic increased youth anxiety and depression and self-injurious behaviors, resulting in an overwhelming number of suicide cases. And during the 2021 summer, there was a 51% increase in ER visits for adolescent girls aged 12 to 17 when compared with the corresponding periods back the year before. And some youth have repeated hospitalizations because of family conflicts around mental illness in the household. Kathy, you are a mom of three. You have devoted yourself to running Kathy Ireland Worldwide, which as of 2021 has made a grand total of $3.1 billion in sales, but you continue to give back. You are equally successfully and passionate on charity work and philanthropy, and of course, mental health is a top priority of yours. Tell me why Anxious Nation is so important to you.
Zen, thank you so much. It's such a joy and honor to be here with you and with you, Amy, today. So grateful. Anxious Nation is a project that I knew I needed to be involved with. Laura Morton is a dear friend and colleague. She is a 21-time New York Times bestselling author. And Vanessa Roth is an Academy Award-winning director. And as I learned about this project, as somebody who's continues to serve on boards of education for over 25 years, over 3 decades of mentoring programs around the world, and as a co-founder of a startup school, a Christian pre-K through 12 college preparatory school, young people are a passion. And I have never experienced a more difficult time to be a young person or an old person. It's, life it can be pretty difficult and divided and chaotic. And it's tough out there. And I think, as you mentioned, Zen, all the factors that went into COVID, I really think intensified what people are going through. And what I love about Anxious Nation, it is so brave. It's young people, children, and their parents openly discussing the struggles, what they're going through, what life is like, because so often people think that they're suffering alone. And then the medical experts who come and give such insight. And sometimes it's difficult to face these tough things, and it's beautiful. I really believe this gives a lot of encouragement and a lot of hope. And something very important is people know that they're not alone. Mental illness, I really believe it impacts all of us in some way, shape, or form.
You said it right. And we seem to have forgotten that adolescents live at the fault lines of a culture, exposing our weak spots, showing the available array of solutions and insolubilities. Maybe they're holding up a mirror for us to see ourselves more clearly. Amy, I believe that teenagers are actually telling us that something is very wrong with America. Article after article shows us that America's teenagers, they're just not doing well. And without putting their finger on what is actually wrong beyond issues of individual mental illness, social media, video games, the weakening of the family unit, they all play a huge role. How do we get ahead of the curve, funding, proper research, and aid, in your opinion?
Well, just last month, we saw the U.S. Prevention Task Force recommend that primary care doctors screen all children ages 8 to 18 for anxiety. That's new guidance. It's going to be really important for finding anxiety earlier. Anxiety can really masquerade in a lot of different ways that are hard to diagnose. So being able to tap into that sooner means that we'll be able to have interventions more immediately.
More immediately, yes, without a doubt. And that's extremely important. It's all about prevention. Prestigious health academies and associations have declared this child mental health pandemic a national emergency, and health systems are struggling to retain frontline mental health providers, and further compromising the care of devastated youth is what it's really coming down to. And as young people navigate difficult emotions, parents should also be supported for the mental exhaustion that they suffer. Struggling with their own mental health conditions and other overwhelming life demands can lead to a lack of healthy parenting techniques. And these problems reduce child parent connectedness, leading to more frequent and severe family problems and perpetuating the cycle of mental illness. Talk to me about the Kathy Ireland Recovery Centers and how these treatment facilities differ from others.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, substance use disorder is on the rise because uh, we don't see substance use disorder when someone is mentally healthy. And so this is escalating and it's dangerous. And so what we seek to do is look for affordable resources. And so with our Kathy Ireland Recovery Centers, we have inpatient and outpatient, and it's a way to, we see, I mean, no judgment. It's wonderful to have facilities that are luxurious, yet most people, it's not attainable for most. So I love that these are well run, qualified leaders, and they're getting great results. And that's a huge blessing. And also, telemedicine is another important resource. This is another way that we can reach people, particularly in remote areas, whether we're talking about remote Kentucky or remote Africa, being able to connect people with qualified, good doctors, counselors, health experts who can really bring help, and also to connect doctors in different parts of the world with each other. Our partners at Let's Talk Interactive are doing an amazing job of this. And so, however we can make this more attainable, more affordable, more real to get the help out there. And Zen, something you talked about is how it impacts the family. And people of all ages are going through difficulties, and so it's important to recognize that, to bring awareness. Amy, the work you do is amazing. You shine such a bright light on mental health, mental well-being, and that's so important. And Zen, you're reaching everybody. We're so grateful.
Thank you so much for saying that. And which brings me to a very valid next question. Amy, despite increased willingness and commonly shared stressors among the public, most adults who have only fair or poor mental health said they don't feel comfortable talking to loved ones about it. And when you ask adolescents, they say they definitely don't want to talk to loved ones about it. Some to maintain privacy and some to avoid the shame and stigma attached to mental health issues. So a parent would ask, why would my adolescent child who's suffering choose not to turn to me, family, or friends? Why is this the case?
There is still a lot of stigma, but we are seeing young people be able to name the experiences that they're having because they're getting support online. The shame and stigma really comes from our lack of vulnerability when we're talking about our own experiences. So if we want young people to share how they're feeling, we have to be willing to demonstrate that ourselves. And in that way, we're showing them not only do we experience these feelings, but we're able to move through them. And that's going to be a key for getting them in early to talk about this, to learn healthy coping mechanisms, and really ultimately prevention.
It's so important. It's so important. And what you just said, early coping mechanisms and prevention, and starting with the education, but also looking at ourselves and how we can stop, the definition of insanity is doing something over and over again and expecting different results. And here we are all these years later, and we still can't put a cap on this mental health pandemic. Kathy, it's interesting because improving teen parent relational health can start with parents' understanding and communication that validates a teenager's feelings and emotional needs, because parents are naturally bonded with their children. Yet there are still youth mental health programs that miss the mark without a focus on child parent treatment. Now, logic would have it that the parent and child play an important role in removing family communication barriers. So I feel that working directly with family units, mental health professionals can help create environments that build healthy connections that truly, truly last. You brought up an interesting point. Let's Talk Interactive. That is your telehealth solution to assist those who need access to healthcare, but again, who can be able to choose to talk to anybody at any time, any place. It's bringing telemedicine to a lot of people and throughout the world. What was your inspiration behind your venture into telemedicine? Because you didn't have enough on your plate.
It was upon meeting Art Cooksey. He is the CEO and the founder of that company. Art is so far ahead of his time. He started this back in the 90s, and technology had to catch up with his vision for what this would be. So I serve on his board of directors. It's the only for-profit company where I serve on the board of directors. And I believe in this work. I'm seeing and experiencing the results. This has been done throughout schools. It's been done throughout prisons, and it's really impacting people. As you both have talked about, there can be this perceived shame or stigma associated with mental health issues. There can be embarrassment. It is so hard to be a teenager in the best of circumstances. It is a tweaky, difficult time for most people. And so with all the things going on in this world right now, it just impacts it all the more. And so this is a wonderful solution for many people, and something that I believe Anxious Nation does a wonderful job of doing is removing any stigma and letting families know they're not alone. It chronicles several different young people and their parents, and then again along with medical workers. And everyone has a different story, so we can't just put everybody in a box and have it be the same. Yet the honesty with these families, and in some cases the parents are saying, oh my goodness, I didn't even recognize that I'm anxious, and my anxiety is being just put upon my children without even realizing it or recognizing it. And also just having an understanding of what is going in, what the kids are taking in and absorbing. They're getting I'm technology, social media, like never before. They're being bombarded. It's pressure, and it does lead to anxiety. And
Yes.
so yeah, it's finding ways to really have a healthier life and a better, fuller life.
Yep. You said it so eloquently and perfectly. We have about a minute left. Amy, what are the main pillars to focus on here? The pathway to improving the delivery of mental health services and education. You have about a minute.
Yeah, well, I think Kathy hit on a lot of really great points. The importance of family-based therapy, telehealth measures that make that possible, to be able to connect family, young people, providers in both remote locations with cultural competence. That can be really helpful. We, of course, know that parity is going to be an important piece of that. And I just mean that is that the insurance companies will cover mental health in the same way they would physical health. And then those screenings that we talked about at the big top of this conversation are now going to be an important part of identifying early without a copay. So because of that recommendation by the task force, we know that more screenings are possible in pediatric settings, and that'll help us to get those supports, as well as teaching life skills in schools. So being able to give those coping mechanisms and have those conversations with classmates, peers, in a safe space is going to be a really key piece of this, but also not waiting for a diagnosis to have interventions. Because we know that if we have to wait for those evaluations and diagnoses, we may miss being able to add some supports that are shorter term in the meantime. And we don't want to wait for things to get that far down the course before we intervene.
No, without a doubt. And by prioritizing, like you said, social and emotional learning from the earliest grades, we can help give our children the tools they need to succeed in school and throughout their lives. So yes, extremely important. What you're saying is community, partnerships, school-based mental health services, early identification, educating the educators, and of course, sustainability. Ladies, we are out of time, but thank you so much for coming on. What an insightful and enlightening interview.
Thank you, Zen. Thank you, Amy.
That was My Healthy Minutes, brought to you by ogpay.com. Definitely check out Amy Kennedy directly on her website, amylkennedy.com, and definitely check out the Kennedy Forum at thekennedyforum.org. Anxious Nation is definitely a film to look out for. It's currently in festivals, anxiousnation.com, and always head to kathyireland.com to look at all the latest news and updates that Kathy is involved with. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Revere Securities. Revere is committed to building a relationship of trust in which they work closely with you to help you define your objectives, explore alternatives, and choose the financial and investment strategies that are most appropriate for you. Go to reveresecurities.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our influencer segment, brought to you by Revere Securities, we are featuring a best-selling author, a coach, a speaker, and branding expert, Heidi Cortez. After many successful years of branding herself online and becoming one of the world's first influencers on MySpace, Heidi took to her expertise and made Instagram her next venture. And in 2010, she launched YouNeedIG.com. Then in 2020, when COVID-19 hit and most businesses were forced to shut down, Heidi and her team thought of another new way that they could help out and give back. The $3 marketing club was the answer they came up with. In 2022, bringing us all the way full circle to today, Heidi's popularity to help others with their brands has grown beyond what she could have personally ever handled. So she wrote her fourth book, Get Verified and Profit Like a Boss. Today, we're chatting about the importance of brandability, the power of the blue check, and insider tips on how to get verified on social media. Now, branding is not a specific set of activities, but rather a strategic perspective used to align customer interests and communicate values. Branding encompasses more than just visuals. It's essential for achieving and maintaining a competitive advantage, a process of establishing a company's brands in the minds of consumers. Branding never remains constant. Actually, it evolves in response to environmental, trends, cultural, technological, and societal changes. By definition, every business has or should have a distinct brand, a signature-bearing label. Remember, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. That's quote unquote directly from Warren Buffett's mouth. Now let's discuss branding and why it is so vital today. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing and rather beautiful Heidi Cortez. Welcome to the show, Stunner.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for that amazing intro.
Oh, you got it, sister. So let's dive right into it. What is the significance of branding and why is the blue check mark, Heidi, to get verified so very important? I mean, your brand is a gateway to your true work. And so that's a quote from Dave Buck himself. What are your thoughts?
Well, obviously, everybody wants the blue check mark. It shows a lot of credibility behind your name, behind your brand. And it creates more trust for your audience. Your audience is going to trust you, which means you're going to make a lot more money. And I have people come to me on a regular basis. Everybody wants to get the check mark, but there's work that someone needs to put into it. Being verified is something at this point, other than on Twitter, that you need to earn. Not just anyone can be verified. So there's no magic button that you just push. There is work to be put into this process. So I just believe that being verified on social media is just so important for someone that has any kind of brand, a business, someone that's in the entertainment business. It also will slow down your fake profiles. People have a lot of fake profiles, whether they're trying to scam somebody else. So, being verified, I feel like is the answer. And I think that everyone should try to work their way towards having that.
Yeah, it's the rite of passage to trust. Now, brands will undoubtedly lose the business game if they fail to manage their brands in a way that is not only here to stay, but also makes a difference, given how rapidly things change and the number of unforeseen events or black swans, so to speak, that the entire world has experienced. Trust is extremely important. So a brand should reflect what you can do. You have to deliver faultlessly and for all the time, right? You can't wager on your promises, but whatever your brand does promise, it's better to make your offering sound witty and innovative than pretend you're more than you are. So get the brand right from the start is what I say. Being honest with yourself and about what it is you're truly offering, that's also important. How do we go about creating a strong, authentic brand, Heidi? What is your opinion?
Well, the most important part is to be yourself and to be honest, like we just said, and to really investigate your competitors, because you want to know what your competitors are doing so you can actually learn from them and even be better than your competitors. So I feel that yeah, building a brand from scratch, you start your social media, you just check out all your competition and make sure that you're on the right track so people will trust you more, and you'll build that confidence with your audience.
Yeah, because individuals, without a doubt, make purchasing decisions and seek
Mhm.
out services based on how they feel, emotions, right? So,
Yeah.
construct or modify your brand based on this, and your brand should have a distinct and trustworthy personality. You
Yeah.
definitely want to evoke emotion in your consumer. So, we've entered a new reality in which metaverse, virtual reality, brandification, sustainable branding, socially responsible branding. I could go on and on. Humanized brand personality.
Mhm.
These are among the emerging trends. These brands and companies, and I think even individuals, have to adapt by choosing what is best for not just us, for our brands and our consumer, but social media verification, Heidi, is more accessible now than
Mhm.
before, and it could work wonders for your business or
Yeah.
your brand. And although celebrities were the first to be social media verified, it's now much more common. So today we see businesses, bloggers, political figures, governments verified, which brings them a certain level of respect and several benefits. How important is trust to consumers? And do you have any tips that you can offer businesses to go about that verification process?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, everywhere but Twitter, it's something that you have to earn. So the reason with Twitter charging $8, and Elon Musk even said that he has to recoup his money somehow. And that just shows that by people paying $8 a month to be able to be verified, he knows he's going to recoup a lot of his money because everybody wants it. It really is so important to build this credibility and to be, quote unquote, better or stand out from your competition. So my advice to somebody, and my tips and recommendation, is to really start your brand with picking something that you're good at, and something that you have a hobby and a passion for. So if you're trying to fake it and fake it till you make it, it's not going to work because people are going to be able to see right through you. So these bloggers or influencers, models, whatever your public figure status is, all of these people are usually all being themselves, because people can see through phonies. We see it all the time. We're not blind to phony commercials or phony personalities. So being yourself is very important. And if you do want to grow your brand or change it, update it over the years, that's okay too. I've come a long ways in 20 years myself. Things have always grown, and you change over time. So it's okay to change your brand. Just because you pick one thing at this exact moment doesn't mean you have to stick with it forever, but you can grow. So my tip to anybody that wants to get verified is to, like I said earlier, check out your competition, but also get press. Press is the most important part of being verified. And I have a lot of people that will come to me on a daily basis, say, Heidi, I have 10,000 followers. I deserve to be verified. And then I Google them and I'm like, no, you don't, because you have to earn this status. It doesn't matter about how many followers you have. It doesn't matter who you know, what your expertise is. It's all about, are you a public figure? Is somebody going to pretend to be you and scam somebody else? Because ultimately the blue check mark does let people know you are the official, you are the original, and it's going to stop the process of people trying to scam other people because they know they're not the real celebrity or public figure.
Yeah, it keeps the bad actors out,
Yeah.
but you're right, being social media verified gives you instant authenticity. So if a
Mhm.
platform deems you authentic, other users will view you the same way, and this also leads to accumulating social proof. So social
Mhm.
proof is the idea that if others are approving or taking part in something, it must be right. It's based on the idea that there's safety in numbers. So have you ever
Mhm.
looked up reviews for a restaurant before going there for the first
Yeah.
time? Of course. You were searching for social proof. So the same can be applied to social media verification. When
Mhm.
you search for a celebrity on Instagram, you likely scan his or her page for the blue check mark to make sure the account is legitimate. And that platform approval is what signals us to be able to trust. So you are right. Now, it didn't take long, like you mentioned, great point, for Elon Musk to weaponize his shiny new $44 billion toy, Twitter. So he's made a few changes and promised many more. But for now, the most controversial Twitter update is that that he wants to just charge $8 flat out, and that will automatically get you verified. Now, this has hit some bittersweet notes in the community. People have worked very hard to get verified in the past, and now Elon is just charging money and going to give it away. What do you say to this?
Well, I see why he's doing it, because it's the most desired action that somebody wants on social media. So I see why he's doing it. I see why he wants to recoup his money. And you know, his tweet specifically said, "Power to the people, $8 to get verified." So if he can make money this way, it's a privately owned business now. He can do what he wants to do. Of course, there are a lot of public figures that are upset about this. I think ultimately, you know, maybe down the line, he might do some kind of, maybe there's a check mark, a blue check mark, but with the actual public figure, maybe there's something else next to it, like maybe a pink circle or something.
Yes.
So, you know, people can tell the difference between the original, because he's okay with people having a parody account or parody account of him or somebody else, as long as you announce that it's just a joke. So you know, we'll see where it goes, but I do think that he can do whatever he wants. And, you know, if he wants to charge people $8, I know that I will pay $8 to keep my blue check mark, because check mark
matters.
Yeah, it does. And something we didn't mention earlier is that a blue check mark has a different algorithm. So it's not just, oh, I have a blue check mark by my name. I'm actually going to be seen a lot more by having that blue check mark. So my algorithm is going to be favored, and I'm going to make more money.
I love it. We are out of time. You've said everything right on, spot on. Thank you so much for coming on. You're so inspirational and insightful, and you are stunning. For those of you that are just listening right now, you definitely have to check her out tomorrow directly on here TV, on our OTT platform. She is quite the beauty. Heidi, you are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, definitely check out Heidi Cortez directly on her website, HeidiCortez.com. That was our influencer segment, brought to you by Revere Securities. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Animoca Brands. As a worldwide industry leader in digital, entertainment, blockchain, gamifications, and digital property rights, Animoca Brands plays a key role in the future growth of the metaverse. Ranked by the Financial Times as a high-growth company, Animoca Brands creates a new asset class, GameFi economies, and a more equitable digital framework contributing to the building of the Open Metaverse. For more information and to become part of the excitement, go to AnimocaBrands.com. That's AnimocaBrands.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to Hello Open Metaverse, brought to you by Animoca Brands. Today, we're featuring John Kraski, Director of Strategic Partnerships at LandVault, which is one of the world's largest metaverse builders, transitioning brands such as Mastercard, Heineken, and World of Women into Web 3.0. Prior to joining LandVault, John was the Director of Strategic Partnerships at NFT Genius, which is the Mark Cuban and Ashton Kutcher venture-backed NFT marketplace and tech platform. Today, we're chatting about how Open Metaverse Alliance says it won't let Meta and Mark Zuckerberg define the future of the internet, and how the future of the metaverse hinges on interoperability. Now, whether the future metaverse will be open and interoperable, and whether it will be primarily built with blockchain technology, really still remains to be seen. That's why an array of crypto builders and firms formed the Open Metaverse Alliance, OMA3, to provide Web3 creators a united front in developing standards to help push the immersive future internet in a healthy direction. The purpose of the alliance is to standardize open collaboration for metaverses, to fundamentally ensure that users are at the core of the construction of their platform and the application, to control their identity, account, and owned assets. And here to chat some more is my expert at hand. Welcome to the show, John.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. This is an amazing opportunity. So I actually used to live in New York, so it's super cool that I'm actually on a station in New York. It's so cool. So.
Well, it's a pleasure to chat with you. So congrats on all your success. Thank you for joining us. So first revealed back in July of this year, OMA3 officially opened up shop this November 1st, and the association has launched memberships across 2 tiers, sponsor or creator, and established working groups to begin developing standards between metaverse platforms, exploring legal protections in Web3 and more. What do you say to OMA3? Are you a fan? Is this needed, and does it matter?
I definitely like the intention of what they're trying to do, for sure. I think obviously having a more open metaverse is going to benefit creators. I think that's, at the end of the day, the most exciting thing about NFT, blockchain, metaverse technology that excites me. So yeah, I'm a fan of what they're trying to do. Well, whether they're going to ultimately prevail, that's yet to be seen, because obviously we see this, this crypto collapse and a lot of stuff happening in the NFT space right now. And there's definitely a lot more regulation that's starting to happen. The FTC is really starting to bear down on it. The government in the UK is now starting to bear down on it. So it's super interesting to see, but the original intention of the internet was actually to be completely decentralized. We're now heading into the 3rd iteration, and we're still not there. So we'll see. I love the idea behind what they're trying to do. I think ultimately, it'll be a win if we can somehow get somewhere in between, like what the original vision was and where we're at now. So yeah, a big fan of what they're trying to do.
Yeah. So the original plan, let's go back to that, because that's what the fundamental things that we're talking about are here, because OMA3 already includes a number of prominent members, including metaverse investor Animoca Brands, NBA Top Shop, and Flow Blockchain, creator Dapper Labs, and the respective entities behind the Web3 games, the Sandbox, Decentraland, Alien World, and Upland. So strong foundation is there. Now, John, this consortium, so to speak, has launched a working group to devise interoperability standards, for example, which will let users move their interactive NFT assets for things like avatars, virtual land, and items between multiple Web3 metaverse platforms. It will also explore intellectual property rights and other legal protections across decentralized online worlds, pushing for an interoperable blockchain-powered metaverse. In your opinion, how important is interoperability in the metaverse? What does it mean for Web3 users, gamers, and investors?
I mean, it's super important, obviously, that you would be able to take your digital ownership and identity and move it from one metaverse to the other. So it's super important that we have that ability. I mean, right now, we're not even close to that. I mean, it's super interesting to me, to be honest with you, because most of the users right now, what we quote unquote call the metaverse, are in very centralized platforms like Roblox. They're in Fortnite. I think Roblox has about 60 million daily active users. Fortnite, maybe it's around 80 million. So those are big numbers. Whereas these very decentralized platforms, they have very minimal activity right now. And that's because there's not really much built and there's not much to do. So it'll be super interesting to see like how those worlds are going to merge. Again, like I told you at the beginning, I think the ideal scenarios where we have, maybe it's like decentralized light, where it's some combination of what's happening right now in the very centralized metaverses, the Roblox, the Fortnite, the Minecraft, and what's trying to be built out right now in Sandbox, Decentraland. So that's the hope, is that, us as creators, us as users of these platforms, that we'll be able to take our identity from one to the other and properly bring our communities with us and monetize what we're creating each of those individually. So yeah, I think the ideal scenario probably would be somewhere in between those two extremes. But ultimately, the customer is going to decide. That's the thing. That's what, at the end of the day, the customers are going to decide what metaverse platform is going to win and what vision we're ultimately creating here in the metaverse. So that's kind of my take. Yeah.
Agreed. It feels much needed. The Open Metaverse Alliance is going to produce technical standards and open source code and documentation on best practices. And membership, John, has opened for organizations with the Web3 space. And it's anticipated, of course, to expand to individuals and DAOs in the near future. But interestingly enough, tensions over how the metaverse should be built are arising. And this is nothing new. So Axie Infinity co-founder Jeff Zerlin last year described what he saw ahead as a battle for the future of the internet. He said that Facebook and other centralized giants were trying to buy the soul of the internet and control its next phase, which many call the metaverse. What do you say to this? And is there an imminent need to disrupt technocracy?
I think obviously, what Meta's trying to do, it's very hard what Meta's trying to do because they're trying to build a metaverse for billions of users. So it's a massive undertaking. I think companies like Meta are going to feel the pressure of what the Open Metaverse Alliance is trying to do, and I think ultimately it's going to help creators, and the margins are going to get compressed, and creators are going to get more money in their pocket. At the end of the day, I think that's the dream. It's like creators, whether content creators, musicians, actors, whoever's creating content, artists. I think if at the end of the day the margins get compressed and they get more money in the pocket, that's a win. So I think that's going to be the ideal scenario. But what Meta's trying to do, at the end of the day, right now they have the eyeballs. They have 2 billion eyeballs, something like that. It's a massive number. They have the data. They have the users. They already have the fame base. Most of us are probably on Instagram every day for at least 30 minutes to an hour. It's probably, if you really look at it, it's probably the #1 TV network in the world, right? I mean, that's the way I look at Instagram. It's like a TV network. We're there all the time. So they already have the users. I think they're going to be able to easily on-ramp people into the metaverse a lot easier than some of these other decentralized platforms that are super friction-filled right now. So if you look at, there was just an announcement made by Decentraland, which is apparently, the quote unquote, the most decentralized metaverse out there. They're going to do their fashion week at Spatial, which is more centralized. So that's very telling that a very, hardcore decentralized metaverse is already saying, well, you know what, the customers and the data telling us that we need to be in something a little more broad-based and centralized. So it's kind of cool to see though that these worlds are starting to merge a little bit and working together. So, my advice for the Open Metaverse Alliance and these hardcore, extreme decentralized people is talk to the customer, have empathy for them, really bring them the conversation. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this as frictionless and exciting and fun for everybody in the world, not just like hardcore technologists, centralists, or whatever, and then people on the other side. So I think that the ideal is somewhere in between. So
yeah, definitely. And in reality, the Open Metaverse Alliance is a response to the Metaverse Standards Forum. So MSF is an association that was announced back in June, John, of this year by a group of 35 tech firms that have similarly committed to building an open metaverse in which users can bring their assets across various future online platforms. But there's a big distinction. Meta, Microsoft, Epic Games, and Adobe are among the Web 2 and tech giants that started MSF. But many in the Web3 space doubt that those firms plan to build a user-owned metaverse in which NFTs can really be freely carried between platforms. And none of the Open Metaverse Alliance member founding companies were invited to join MSF. So it feels like tensions were brewing between big tech and Web 3.0. But we know that Meta, right, has pumped $36 billion into its metaverse and VR business since 2019. Now, Meta is cutting hiring and laying off workers to reduce costs, but they're going to keep pumping billions of dollars into its metaverse projects. In your opinion, why is Zuckerberg still so adamant about these metaverse investments?
Because that is where the future of the internet is heading for sure. It's basically the metaverse it's really internet in 3D. It's a more immersive experience for users of the internet. So I think he's right that this is where the users are heading. I think, internally they're trying to do a lot of things, but my gut tells me they're going to start to acquire some of these Web3 companies, very similar to what they did with Instagram, right? Because if you really look at it, their most valuable asset right now in their portfolio is Instagram, a company they acquired for, I don't know what it was, a couple $1 billion. That looks like a bargain now. So I think he's on the right track. I think they're going to have to probably acquire some existing players. There's going to be a lot of consolidation in the space. Probably, I would say the next 12 to 18 months is my guess. I've heard some rumblings about Dapper Labs and Disney, which could be super interesting. I think that I know Meta. I know a couple different companies in the metaverse space that Meta is actively trying to acquire. So yeah, I think it's super exciting. And the applications for what can be done in the metaverse are exciting. One of my favorite examples is this company Immerse. They're based in Austin, Texas, and they have built an AR, VR workplace technology so we can work in the metaverse. And they're building office buildings, and I think that's a super, super interesting use case. So I think that once we start to dial down, this whole crypto thing is a good thing because it's getting rid of all the bad actors. People in here were just in the space for a cash grab and kind of lying and cheating their way to the top. Now they're back. Everybody's back to zero. We're having some regulation in the space, and now the real builders are going to start to enter space. We're going to start to create some real life use cases for what needs to be done in the space. So I'm bullish on what's about to happen. I think the real builders are about to enter the building. It's going to be a fun ride.
While some Web3 builders have seen Meta as an antagonist or a threat in the world's, in the words of Animoca's Yatsu, they hope to work alongside the social media giant really to develop a metaverse format that everybody can plug into. I think, from Animoca's perspective, the more that we can give pride and regulation to a safe, open metaverse, the more that we can also disrupt technocracy and put power back in the hands of the people. And an interesting quote, again, by Yat is he told Decrypt that Facebook and the Chinese firm Tencent were a threat to an open metaverse if they can't find a way to work together. So interesting that those words are being spoken these days.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, whatever, everybody's positioning themselves, whatever. But at the end of the day, like Meta, they're a beast. So they're an absolute beast. And I think any Web3 company would love to figure out a way to work with them and leverage some of like the amazing things that Web3 technology has to offer and integrate that into their tech stack. So I think at the end of the day, that's what you're going to start to see, a lot of consolidation between, really powerful Web2 brands and a lot of the big players right now that in the Web3 space, the Sandbox, the Decentraland, the Dapper Labs. So it's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, definitely exciting times. Well, we are out of time. I just want to thank you for coming on and chatting, my friend. Very, very enlightening interview. And thank you for putting things into perspective for us.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Guys, you definitely have to check out John Kraski. Head to LandVault.io. And of course, make sure you're checking out all the latest at AnimocaBrands.com. That was Hello Open Metaverse, brought to you by Animoca Brands. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes in our Innovation and Tech segment, brought to you by Caldwell Soames and ogpay.com, we're joined by a regular contributor, Paul Caldwell, and today he is joined by Vincent Molinari, founder and CEO of fintech.tv. Vince is a globally recognized thought leader on the modernization of securities law and a leader at the intersection of breakthrough innovation and technology solutions. He is the host of the Digital Asset Report and the Impact shows filmed at the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. Today, we're chatting about where the fintech industry is headed amidst the digital process, but specifically about cross-border payments and ease of use for the 1.7 billion people in this world that are unbanked and underbanked, accessing all these fintech services, all but with their smartphones. Now, the immigrant community in the US face one of the lesser known misfortunes of the modern economy, with the prevalence of unbanked and underbanked individuals who have no access to many of the benefits that the digital economy provides. Unbanked individuals lack access to bank accounts, while underbanked individuals have access to bank accounts, but for different reasons. They rely on alternative non bank financial solutions to meet some of their financial needs. Even those who are prone to utilize bank like financial solutions must face the problem of legacy technology solutions, which are inefficient and quite expensive. This exposes millions of underbanked immigrants in the US to face a fierce, vicious cycle. They live in a cash based economy and have no track of their financial performance, which limits their access to traditional financial services and other digital tools, forcing them to go with inefficient, legacy, high fee alternatives, which makes it harder to fulfill their financial goals. A catch 22, so to speak. Here to chat fintech, blockchain, and the pathway out of poverty are my experts at hand, Paul Caldwell and Vince Molinari. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Zen.
To be here.
All right, nice to meet you, gentlemen. Okay, Paul, I'll start with you. So many of these immigrants and their relatives could be greatly aided by real-time efficient digital cross-border payment solutions, which allow an individual to receive funds instantly in every mobile device and without the hassle of the hidden costs. Innovative cross-border transfer solutions reduce the burden that underbanked communities' populations must face, reducing their need to seek exploitative or inefficient options. A truly real-time cross-border payment platform can ease their struggles, offering access to financial solutions tailored specifically to their needs. Talk to me about why fintech platforms should be catering to these needs, and how is OG Pay, for one, stepping up to these needs?
Zen, that's a great question. It's not a new question. It's or a new problem. It's been around a long time, and I dare to say it will be around for a long time. The fintech, the financial technology, doesn't just live in the new age of high valuations and startups and mobile wallets and all of that. There's a lot that's going on in fintech, even in traditional banking sector, like the new upcoming 24/7 365 ACH on the Nacha platform. That's a very advanced technology that will also allow bridges and frameworks to be built between globally between real-time transfers of money and the banking systems in other countries and the central banks of other countries. So that's very interesting. But for your question about something like an OG Pay, it's a very interesting thing because wallet-to-wallet transfers are instant. They can be, and they should be, just an instant transfer of money, one person to another, one subscriber or one wallet holder to another. Whether that's merchant, a consumer wallet to a merchant wallet, a consumer wallet to a consumer wallet, or a merchant wallet to a merchant wallet. So these technologies can really help increase efficiencies. They're not just disruptive, they actually can be transformative and transform how people think about how they send and receive their money. The old Western Union days are gone, going to the grocery store and filling out a paper to send $200 to Mexico from Texas, or hopefully far in the rearview mirror, although it happens every day in the tune of billions of dollars. So from a technical perspective, it's sort of like beyond where the market actually is. So I think those are some of the things. Another thing that I think is really important that we're seeing happening now, that it's not even something that was ever planned, but on that particular platform that you mentioned, OG Pay, they have a roundup feature for charities where people can select roundup, and their purchases on the OG Pay Visa or whatever will round up to the next dollar and go to the charity of their choice. Interestingly, that's a global thing. So
I love that.
Imagine the Operation Underground Railroad for missing and exploited children to prevent child slavery and so forth. Imagine them being able to pull in, as they are now through that platform, donations from people that round up in Uganda and all of that. So it's not just about giving the unbanked and the underbanked in these underprivileged places an opportunity and a way to transfer money or to get money on a platform that they can then use with a Visa card or whatever. It's also about bringing them more broadly and deeply into the global economy, allowing them to participate in things like that.
Well
And
said.
they become part of it.
Yeah.
And then
That's
if they
important.
become part of it, they have a, yeah,
it's important to become part of it, and it's important to keep it going for social impact and social activism now could be even verified and tracked on the blockchain, which brings me to my next point. Vincent, blockchain technology is revamping the fintech industry in a myriad of ways, such as by eliminating third parties, reducing operational time and cost, enhancing the identity verification process, all of this great stuff. But the fintech industry is recognizing the transformative impact of blockchain technology for generating more revenue, improving the end user experience, the delivery process efficiency. Talk to me about what is needed in fintech and what is missing to ensure a seamless transition into Web 3.0.
Wow. So that was the softball question, right?
Yeah.
But, Zen, I think there's so much here when we think about the digital transformation. And I think it goes to the core of what Paul was just talking about. This is not a new problem that we're experiencing. It's how do we solve for that problem? So I think when we look at digital transformation, and I think part of all of this, when we talk about underbanked, non-banked, engaging the less fortunate, is our own personal responsibility to move those into our global ecosystem. That goes to everything that you talked about, an identity. It's access to commerce, it's access to banking systems, finance in the next generation of technologies, where we move from a society of scarcity to one of surplus. So I think if we frame that back, what do we really need first and foremost? It's closing the digital divide, right? Particularly when we talk outside the United States, but even in rural communities where we need to engage connectivity, right? And closing that digital divide, that starts to speak to education, awareness, better healthcare system. And predominantly here, when we talk about the removing friction for connectivity for financial services. And Paul's 100% right. Although Western Union is indeed antiquated from a technology standpoint, they are the legacy player who takes a huge scrape in the process. And if you think about $20, $15 of $100, particularly globally, that's an amount of money that helps feed a family that's being, frankly, in my view, exploited.
Yes.
So I think it's more technology solutions chasing that inefficiency that allows us to engage and bring underbanked and non-banked into the society, because if you now have a device and you're connected, you are part of the new society. Right? You're all of a sudden you can have a level, whether it is a real-time debit wallet, whether you're having engagement in couponing, whether you even can get an Uber now, right?
That's right.
You change the very trajectory. And then think about education, and I'll say financial literacy. So it becomes a very powerful feedback loop. And I think for me, it goes back to closing the digital divide is the paramount piece.
Yes, and it's power to the people. This is the rise of the creator economy in many respects, and fintech makes up the lion's share in the blockchain market, and for a good reason. The fintech blockchain market is expected to reach a valuation of $36 billion by the end of the year 2028. Paul, which is interesting, right? Like, I mean, those are numbers. So the finance domain, Paul, even after being a recipient of multiple technology integrations and advancements, continues to operate as a centralized model, with the center being the financial institutions and governments. While an age-old tradition, financial service users have started doubting its value, myself included. This doubt has given birth to a more transparent solution, which is blockchain development services. And the technology has added another dimension to the fintech landscape, the one that has evolved as a tech-based revolution in the financial sector. It has offered the tremendous potential to the fintech industry by bringing significant changes to business models and operating processes. Talk to me about ODC, the original digital corporation, and how OG Pay is adapting to Web 3.0. You have about 2 minutes.
Okay. I think the original digital corporation has, they have OG Pay is one of their platforms. And Original Digital is one of the companies inside our privately held companies fund. So we've been with them now for 4 years, or just maybe under 4 years in the portfolio. And one of the things that we found is that the reality is the technology is always out front of the market. And it's important, though, to build technology that matters to the market, because it's about, I believe, the only way these companies truly scale in the long term, beyond all the crazy membership per subscriber valuations a fintech company can get, no matter if they really inform value in the market or not. I think it's really important for long stay companies to aggregate mind share. And I think if you get enough mind share around something that's transformative, you get market share as a default. And then you have to just defend that, build moats around it, and protect it. I think that this decentralization of certain aspects that fintech solutions can bring to the consumer creates an added value. It's not necessarily a replacement value all the time. It can just be an added value, an add-on value, and then they will decide to replace the old with the new.
Yes.
There are, it's a noisy space out there. If you're building a fintech wallet right now, for example, okay, everything sounds really good, but what are you going to do to get Mary Smith in the U.S. or Paola somebody in Brazil to want to put your app on her already noisy phone, busy phone screen where she's got her PayPal or Venmo or banking, her
So
finance.
ease of use is what you're talking about.
Ease of use, simplicity, and
All of this matters.
tangible and real value for that person, so they want to be a part of it. We're way out there now with where you could just convince people, or where you can just buy people by giving a referral fee for somebody to put your wallet. That's fine, but it has no stickability, no sustainability, and the CAC on that, CAC meaning CAC, customer acquisition costs, are extremely high relative to what they need to be. So,
yes, I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to get Vincent in here. We have about a minute and a half left. Vincent, let's chat the challenges in the fintech industry that blockchain addresses, like dependency on a centralized system, right? So though fintech solutions do offer a sense of convenience, the actual power is still in the hands of third parties. This is the first challenge that has been resolved with the advent of blockchain in fintech. Is mass adoption close, or are we still facing challenges as a lack of knowledge and education regarding fintech and blockchain applications in merchant still is a prevailing factor?
Oh my goodness, I think we've got a while to go to think about mass adoption. I think as we go through some of the iterations and these big disasters that we've had rather recently, I think we start to demonstrate some of the challenges with our current frameworks around blockchain decentralization, where it largely looks a whole lot less decentralized than theoretically it should be. So that is creating some more challenges of adoption, concerns, that I think elongates the process to mass adoption. So I think we're going through this cycle where we are going to be thinking about more regulation than less. How do we have investor protection? What are balance sheet or risk management, capital accounts, disclosures that kind of move a little bit more to a centralized finance model than a fully decentralized? So I think we are in a clear evolution versus a full revolution. And that is going to take some time. And I continue to say it, I think we're still building the stadium. When people talk about we're in the early innings, I think we're still building the stadiums, and the game is beginning to be played. And we've got to figure out what game are we actually playing. So I think it's a little bit more than I'd like to think before we have mass adoption. But I think you're right, that user interface, ease of use, comfort in the process is getting better and better.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's definitely getting better. People are now starting to talk about it. And at the end of the day, really, when you look at DeFi is all about the merging of fintech with blockchain. Although the two are not exactly the same, there's a lot of crossover between the use cases in the financial sector. And blockchain for finance is known for its decentralized, distributed, immutable, and transparent digital ledger technology, which really does offer a new type of security and freedom. And DeFi companies with blockchain elements do create an open alternative to everyday financial elements. So I think we're headed in a great direction. We just got to keep the education flowing. We are out of time, gentlemen, but thank you so much both for piping in here and simplifying the complicated for the average listener.
Thank you so much, Zen.
My pleasure.
Guys, you definitely have to check out our Innovation and Tech segment right here every Saturday night. That was our Innovation and Tech segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames and ogpay.com. Do check out Vincent Molinari, founder and CEO of fintech.tv. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. Welcoming back to our segment now is Vincent Molinari and Paul Caldwell. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Great to be here.
Hi, Zen.
All right, Paul, nice to have you both back. Thank you for joining. All right, Paul, let's come back with you. So in the fintech market, time is money. So by cutting down the dependency on multiple people, making the process public to all, and reducing the time involved, blockchain tech has again proved to be one of the fintech trends that can reduce the cost by nearly 50%. How is ogpay.com contributing to this narrative? What is the cost to users, and how is it simplifying people's lives?
Well, I think the most important component to all of that when you start talking about cost is unburdening the consumer with cost and moving the cost into the back office and knowing how to make money with your financial technology in the back office, not having to burden the consumer with heavy fees. If you've ever gone and secured a green dot card at Walgreens and you see what you pay for that thing, or what the unbanked or underbanked person that's typically the consumer that uses that, the heavy fees that are there are unbelievable. How much it costs, or a payday loan, or if you ever go into a pawn shop and try to get a payday loan just as an experiment, look at the fees. Or even if you just go try to get one of these cash register Visa cards and look at how much money you actually pay, and then you even pay to reload it. For the pleasure of putting your own money on it, you have to pay yet again. Moving those fees to the back office so a company can still make money, like doing real deals with Visa as a principal partner and being able to get interchange fees from Visa for that debit card versus having to get money only from the consumer. But because it's not just a third party, you're your third or fourth in the food chain, and so everybody has to make money in the middle. If you go direct and you can build relationships back end, and you have technology that allows that to work together, you get things like the ability to settle a crypto transaction, for example, onto a Visa debit card at very little cost to the consumer. And then they can use that card for free, just like they would any other debit card from their bank, or being able to load their paycheck on there for nothing, for free, because the money's made on how the transactions happen in the back end through Nacha and the ACH platforms. So there are ways to make money if you do it wisely, I think, where you can start pulling those fees back into the back office and covering those costs and making profit versus having to just get them through the subscriber themselves. Now, there are subscriber fees that are perfectly viable and valuable. If someone wants to pull cash off of an ATM, there's an ATM fee. I get that. There needs to be that because there are costs. But I think the beauty of the fintech and the blockchain efficiencies that blockchain can bring, I guess I should say, are really on the back end, so that you can reduce the exposure of heavy cost-laden opportunities or programs to the consumer. That's sort of one of the OG Pay mantras that we've been living with for 3.5 years with those guys, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff because you're solving real world issues. And if you really think of it, DeFi is in essence an emerging financial technology based on blockchain that reduces the control of banks on financial services and money. And over the course of decades, I feel we're also going to notice that digital ledgers will experience a transformation in how we receive, send, store, and manage our money. If you look at some facts, JP Morgan on April 12th of last year of 2021 stated that they have been leveraging the power of blockchain for improving money transfers, that they're using blockchain technology for lowering the verification time needed for making large payments. So you see the adoption happening. It's just happening, not as fast as we would like like it, the ones that are speaking this language. Vincent, let's chat regulatory compliance, because this is what you do and what you do best. This is, again, one of the prime blockchain use cases in the fintech sector. With global demand for regulatory services predicted to bolster in the upcoming years, fintech companies are adopting blockchain to upgrade regulatory compliances. They're relying upon this technology to track each and every verified transaction and record all the transactions taken by the associated people, if you will, so that regulators do not require to confirm the authenticity of the record, right? It's getting done. How does a fintech app remain compliant and trustworthy if they are getting into the game now?
Wonderful question. And I guess it depends whether you want to ask the SEC, CFTC, Department of Treasury, all of the above, as we're in this process of learning, right? So for me, every system on Wall Street and in finance has changed over time with the advent of the most modern technology, making it more efficient. And we've seen that through electronic trading, high frequency trading, right? Where we have these efficiencies, right? We're talking about efficiencies attacking a pain point and creating smaller margins, greater volumes, right? So we see this rinse and repeat. That's exactly where we are with blockchain being recognized as the next component to create efficiencies, transparencies, capital markets, secondary liquidity, fintech more broadly. Where the rub comes when we think about decentralized and we think about regulation, when we begin to think about a fiduciary responsibility, trading, clearance, settlement, depository. So although the technology may be light years ahead and so much more efficient, we still are dealing with the 1933 and 34 Acts of securities law. So we have this disconnect. So how do you modernize securities law to help take advantage of the most efficient, transparent technologies that give us better marketplaces? So we have protectionism going on one hand, legacy regulation, trying to marry itself with the best technology. So it is incumbent, I think, particularly some of the messaging coming out of the SEC this week again, they're looking at regulation by enforcement, which is not the best practice, in my opinion, which is going to slow some things down. So I think a lot of fintechs have no choice but to adopt more regulation within their systems so that they can continue to scale and continue to advocate for more modernizations of law.
Well said. Well said. You definitely have a great grip on, the bird's eye view of what really is happening, what needs to happen, and how things are going to start to evolve. You have a great sense of where the industry is going because you talk about this every day. Paul, any closing thoughts?
The only thing I would say is that fintech comes off the tongue very easily. Fintech, right? Everybody talks about fintech. But I think to Vince's point, I just want to illuminate one thing that he said, and that is the centralization of the way that money works. Simply put, when you get to settlements and you get into secondary markets and you get into the regulatory frameworks that we have to operate, everybody has to operate within, you start to get into some very serious conversations, because these are all about responsibility and making sure people aren't taken advantage of. There's a big confusion when you talk about fintech. It's almost like when some people, when they talk about blockchain, they actually think they're talking about cryptocurrencies. This couldn't be they could not be two different conversations anymore. They are very different conversations, but people lump them together, and people lump fintech together with financial services and transaction processing and settlements and there is so much to do to get a transaction done that I think the smartest fintech companies right now are not concerned necessarily about future proofing per se. I think they have to be kind of now proofing to the current regulatory environment. I think they have to build to where they can leverage the current regulatory environment to advantage so they can stay relevant in the marketplace while they are using advanced technology to do that. It's not about talking about the technology first and then thinking about the regulatory frameworks, because if you do that, you're going to be short-lived one way or another. But if you build a technology that uses the existing frameworks, which is why, like the guys over at Original Digital, they all come from Citibank and other places. They built this technology around the existing regulatory frameworks, within those frameworks, to use advanced technology to be able to operate within the existing regulatory frameworks around the world in many, many countries as well, not just the United States. So I think that really matters. But I just wanted to clear that up because I think fintech, like blockchain or crypto, they all come off the tongue very easily. But as Vince said, there's a lot of work to do. And I love this analogy about building the stadium when we're really haven't not even picked the teams yet.
Yeah, I love
like
that too. We're going to coin that. We're going to coin that, Vince.
No, it's
Well,
absolutely. I 100% am aligned with that. Yeah.
okay, well, we are out of time, gentlemen. Thank you both for coming on. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zen.
Blockchain tech is, in fact, revolutionizing fintech, guys, without a doubt. Revamping the industry, eliminating third parties, reducing operational time and cost, enhancing the identity verification processes we've been talking about, and just so much more. These benefits of blockchain in finance are here to help the sector transform digitally. That's the bottom line. And you have to trust the process, and you have to remain educated. That was our Innovation and Tech segment, brought to you by Caldwell Soames and ogpay.com. Make sure you're definitely checking out Vincent Molinari, founder and CEO of fintech.tv, and of course, our regular contributor, Paul Caldwell. Always a pleasure. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Animoca Brands as a worldwide industry leader in digital, entertainment, blockchain, gamifications, and digital property rights. Animoca Brands plays a key role in the future growth of the metaverse. Ranked by the Financial Times as a high-growth company, Animoca Brands creates a new asset class, GameFi economies, and a more equitable digital framework contributing to the building of the Open Metaverse. For more information and to become part of the excitement, go to animocabrands.com. That's animocabrands.com.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. We are at the end of our date. Remember to join me right here, same time, same place, next Saturday night on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710wor.iheart.com/a moment of Zen. Also remember that we're now live on our fabulous OTT platform, Traverse TV, Sundays at 1 p.m. and on YouTube, Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. All of our episodes are also available on demand. Remember to check us out on YouTube at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. And of course, a big thank you and shout out to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. We'll be right back next week. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio.